Gananam tva ganapatigam havamahe kavim kavinamupamashravastavam Jyeshthārajam brahmanam brahmanaspata shrunvannotibhis seedasadanam Shri Mahaganadhipataye namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Bhadram Karne Vishrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshaviryajatraha Sthirairangai Istuštuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vruddhashravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Starkshyo Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dear friends, we were reading the mantra 6, Prathama Mundaka, Prathama Khanda, mantra 6. That is the first part, 1-1-6. We read the mantra and we were reading the Bhashya. This is about that say Supreme Brahman, Yattad Adreshyam Agrahyam Agotram, etc., etc. We are in the context of what is the lower Vidya and what is the higher Vidya. Higher Vidya is something Yaya Tadaksharam Adhigamyate. That is how it was defined. That is, the higher level of knowledge is that by which you attain that imperishable thing. That imperishable thing, what is that imperishable thing? Is described in this particular mantra, Yattadadreshyam Agrahyam. It is beyond senses, it defies all types of description. And this is something which is a Nityam, this is something which is there, that is the only Sat Padartha which is available. Then that is what is Vibhu. Vibhu means Vividham Bhavati, that which appears as everything else, everything. And then Sarvagatam, it is immanent in everything, it is pervading, all pervading. Then Susukshmam, it is something which is very, very subtle, it cannot be objectified. Then Tadavyayam, it doesn't undergo any change. And such a thing which doesn't undergo any change, which is also the Bhuta Yoni. Bhuta Yoni means Bhutanam Karanam. That is the source, that is the origin for all the beings. Something which does not undergo any change, something which is Apanipadam, something which doesn't have any limbs, that is the source for all the things we see. So that is the wonderful thing which we were seeing. Tayyat Bhuta Yonim Paripashyanti Dhiraha. So that line we were seeing. Dhiraha. In that commentary, we were about to see that particular commentary. In the commentary, we read this particular line, Vyaya, Avyaya. Regarding that word Avyaya, we read, Nahi Anangasya Swanga Pachaya Lakshano Vyaya Sambhavati Sharirasyeva. Just as in the case of a body, there is a decay of limbs. Gradually, we become weak and then all the limbs they decay. But such a decay is not contemplated in this say thing called Brahman. This Brahma is not a person. That we have to always keep in mind. This Brahma, it is not as though he is eternally strong, eternally very, very powerful, sitting there and all that. It is not like that. It is an entity. It is of the nature of consciousness which does not undergo any change. It is something which is of the nature of consciousness which does not undergo any change. Just as consciousness, intelligence does not have any hands, limbs, etc. It is something which doesn't have any limbs, hands, etc. And this is something which is all pervading and it has no origin, because if you contemplate or if you postulate origin for intelligence, then who is the person who sees the origin of it, who notices the origin of it? So that again should be an intelligent thing only. So which means that intelligence is something which is always there. There is no particular point of origin for that. So such a thing is something which is avyaya. It doesn't undergo any change, it doesn't diminish at all, as in the case of a body, or as in the case of Napi, Koshapachaya Lakshano Vyaya Sambhavati Rajnaiva, or just as in the case of a king's treasury. You keep on spending the money for say various things and then the treasury depletes. So there is no such depletion or any such thing in this thing called the Supreme Being or consciousness. Supreme Being also is a misnomer, Supreme Reality. So that is it. Then now let us read. Napi Gunadvarako Vyayaha Sambhavati Agunatvat Sarvatmakatvacha Yadevam Lakshanam Bhutayonim Bhutanam Karanam
Yadevam lakshanam bhutayonim bhutanam karanam
Pruthiviva sthavara jangamanam
Pruthivi iva sthavara jangamanam
Paripashyanti sarvataha atmabhutam sarvasya aksharam sarvasya
Paripashyanti sarvataha atmabhutam sarvasya
Aksharam pashyanti dhiraha Aksharam pashyanti
Aksharam pashyanti
Dhiraha dhimanto vivekinaha.
Dhiraha dhimanto vivekinaha.
Okay. So, regarding the avyaya itself, there is one more line. Napi gunadvarako vyayaha sambhavati. Because this avyaya, this supreme reality called Brahman, it doesn't have any characteristics. All other things which we see, the names, all the things which we see, they have some characteristics. They belong to a particular character, they belong to a particular class, jati, guna, dharma, various types of properties will be there. They belong to a particular class. Then they have some description. They can be objectified, but this is something which does not have any such guna. So it is beyond, say, any such thing. So that is why, napi gunadvarako vyayaha. There is no danger that it is going to lose some of its properties. It is losing some of its properties. So such a danger, such a contingency does not arise at all. A contingency where there will be depletion of its properties or change of properties. Such a thing is not there. Sambhavati sharirasya. Then sarvatmakatvacha, because this is, and also this is the self of everything. This is the self of everything which we see, sarvatmakatvat. And yadevam lakshanam bhutayonim. So something which has been described in this manner, evam lakshanam means something which has been described, that which has been described in this manner, in the above manner, bhutayonim paripashyanti dhiraha. Dhiraha means vivekinaha. They see this particular Brahman as the Bhuta Yoni, such Bhuta Yoni. Bhuta Yoni means Bhutanam Karanam. For this is the cause for all the beings. You see, what is the cause for all the beings? Something has to be, we have to think of. What is the cause? The cause should be something which is, when you say something is a cause, that cause, the supreme cause again shall be something which is called, that can be called a inert thing. Suppose there is a clay. Clay is the cause for all the parts. And clay is again evolute of something, Prithvi, Apahat, this Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, and in that manner, in that way, the earth has formed. Earth means any solid thing. So, from this, again, if you want to trace back your origin, you have to go back to, say, Akashat, Vayu, Agni is the descent. If you want to ascend, you have to go in the reverse direction. So that is what is called laya. So in that way, when you go up to that pradhanam or whatever is called maya or prakriti. That also is jada, isn't it? That again is tangible. So which means, if you want to equate Brahma with that tangible thing, that tangible thing is something which is changing, isn't it? Maya or prakriti is something which is changing. Whereas, in this definition of supreme reality, it is said as something which is unchanging. So that means it is something which is beyond Maya. Something which is not even that Maya or Prakriti. It is something which is beyond that Prakriti. It is appearing as Prakriti. So that is how we have to conclude. Because on one hand, the Shruti is saying that it is the origin. On one hand, it is saying that it is the origin. And again, in the earlier mantra, it is said, in this particular mantra, it is saying that it is something which is unchanging. It does not have any limbs. So it does not have any properties. So such a thing, how can it be the Bhuta Yoni or Bhutanam Karanam? Of course, that we will see in the next mantra. So Bhuta Yonim Bhutanam Karanam Pruthiviva Sthavara Jangamanam. Just as Prithvi, just as the earth is the cause for all the Sthavara and Jangama. Sthavara means those unmoving things and Jangama means moving things. That means Sthavara means all the trees, plants, etc. Jangama is for all the moving things. That is animals, all types of animals. Then Paripashyanti Sarvataha Atma Bhutam Sarvasya Aksharam Pashyanti. So this Dhiraha. Dhiraha means Dhimantaha. Dhimantaha is Vivekinaha. This particular word Dhira we also get in Kathopanishad. Paranchikhani Vyatrunat Swayambhuhu Tasmat Parang Pashyatinantaratman Kaschid Dhiraha Pratyagatmanam Aikshat. So there we saw Kaschid Dhiraha. One rare, say, Dhira. Dhira, there we have seen the definition of dhira was dhiyam rati, grunhati iti dhiraha. Dhi means buddhi. Dhiyam rati, one who has a perfect vision, one who has that perfect, understanding. He is dhiyam rati, one who grasps it properly, one who understands it properly. He is the dhira. Dhira is not a person who can fight 100 people. Dhira is a person who understands the things in the most correct way. Buddhi vrittim grunhati. So such people, they see this, Brahman as the Bhuta Yoni, that is Sarvasya Atma Bhutam Sarvasya Aksharam. So Sarvasya Atma Bhutam, they see that all this Brahman is nothing but the self of all the beings. This Brahman is the self of all the beings, which is immanent in all beings and which is appearing as all beings. It is not as though all these beings are separate from Brahman. That also we will see in the next mantra. If we say that Brahman is separate and then this world is separate, then you are entering a sort of duality situation, and also it will mean that Brahma is a limited entity. If you say that Brahman is apart from the world, you are saying that Brahma is there in some corner, the world is there in some other corner, which means that there is something which is beyond Brahma. So, which is an inconsistent thing, and then it cannot be accepted. So that is why this Brahma only is appearing as reality, as this world. So that is what we have to accept. So that is what we will see in the next mantra. So, Idrusham Aksharam Yaya Vidyaya Adhigamyate. Did we read this? Oh, Idrusham Aksharam Yaya Vidyaya Adhigamyate.
Idrusham Aksharam Yaya Vidyaya Adhigamyate.
Sa Paravidyeti Samudayarthaha.
Sa Paravidyayati Samudayarthaha.
Samudayarthaha means the total meaning. The total meaning of this shloka. The whole meaning of this shloka. Samudaya means collection, isn't it? Samudaya. Jana Samudaya we say. A collection of people. Samudaya means all this, the whole shloka. Samudayartham is the meaning of the whole shloka. Is, what is it? Idrusham Aksharam Yaya Vidyaya Adhigamyate. This type, by that Vidya or that knowledge by which this type of Aksharam, this type of imperishable thing is attained. That particular knowledge by which this type of imperishable thing is attained is called Paravidya, is the higher Vidya. So that which cannot enable you to attain this is not a Paravidya. That is Rigveda, Yajurveda, etc. By simply reading Rigveda, without, understanding this Guru Abhigamanam and Vairagyam and Shravana, Manana, etc., one will not be able to attain. So, mere Rigveda, mere Yajurveda, mere, all other branches of education will not give this Aksharam. Only the study of Veda, accompanied by this Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, accompanied by purification, self-purification, etc., will enable you to, understand this. And that is what is Paravidya. So, that is what is mentioned here. So, the next mantra is about, how exactly this, the origin takes place. You see, in this particular mantra, sixth mantra, it told that this Brahman is of this nature. The characteristics, this is not this, not this, not this. So Brahma has to be described not as we define an object in front of us. It is something which is not this, in that manner it is described. And then in the second line it also said, yes, this is what it is, Nitya, eternal. It is appearing as everything. It is unchanging. So some of the characteristics were told in that fashion also. And now the question arises as to how can there be creation from something which is something which is unchanging, which has no characteristics, which has no properties, which has no limbs. So from such a thing, how can this world, the creation take place? Because regarding this creation, or regarding the you call it creation or evolution, or the appearance of this Jagat, there are various theories we know. Pure materialists, they say that it is from atoms. Pure materialists, they say this atomic theory was there, right from Greeks it was there. In our tradition it is there, in the Western tradition among Greeks and other people it is there. They are pure, materialists. They need not accept the presence of God or anything. So atoms are the most original things. From those atoms, all these things they have combined, and then these things have come, and then somehow this intelligence has come into, these atoms, and then all these animals have come into existence. So that is a very simple way. Then Ishvara Karanavada. Ishvara Karanavada means that is the people who say that yes, there is something called God. So they say that okay, there is somebody in heaven called somewhere in heaven. So he is the God. So he has created all this, say the whole universe. So that means there is an Ishvara. Somehow he has created this whole universe. And then there is another Vada which says Ishvara Parinamavada. Like Ramanuja and others, they say Ishvara Parinamavada. Jagat is, okay, the same question they also raise. Because if you define this Ishvara as something which is Nitya, Vibhu, Sarvagata, etc., then how to explain this world? Obviously, Ishvara only is changing as this thing. Ishvara only is appearing as Chit and Jada. So Chit, Jada, both are there. Chid, Achit. Chit is intelligence, Achit is Jada. Chid, Achit, Vishishta, Advaita. So that is what they say. So they say that both the things, they are there. They are again transformation of the same Brahman. The transformation of the same Narayana or Vishnu as they call it. So Ishvara Parinamavada, there is somebody who says that there is an Ishvara, there is a Lord somewhere, and then he somehow creates this material. So God is still there, sitting in his heaven, world is separate. So that is a perfect duality. Including Madhva. Madhva also, they also say the same. Madhva theory is almost close to the Western religions. Because God is separate, world is separate, all the human beings are separate. So it is a very simple arrangement. So this Vishishtadvaita is slightly complicated arrangement in the sense that the same Brahman or Mahavishnu or Narayana, he transforms into this universe. So that is why this whole universe is the body of this Vishnu. So Shesha, Sheshi Bhavam, they use the words called Shesha and Sheshi. So that Lord is the Sheshi. Sheshi means one who has all the parts. And we are all Shesha. We are all small limbs, small something like infinitesimal part of that huge Narayana or Vishnu. So that is what they say. Whereas when it comes to us, when it comes to Advaita, the Advaita says, no, when you say that something which is totally avyaya, something which does not undergo any change, how can you explain? So obviously, there is some other way in which we have to say. So that is why we say that the same Brahman, through this, this power called Maya, through power in the sense, through this manifesting thing called Maya, he appears as this, not even he, that consciousness appears as the whole world. So that is what we say. Though in Advaita, there is no question of Narayana, there is no question of Shiva or anything. Because Shaivas, they may say, Shiva is the main Lord who created the whole universe. Then somebody, if you go to Ganesha followers, they will say Ganesha is the prime Lord who created the whole universe. Whereas in the case of Advaita, okay, we tentatively accept those Ganesha, Vishnu, etc., in our puja room. But when it comes to theory, when it comes to doctrine, we say that is at the level of Vyavahara, that is at the Vyavahara level. But at the Paramarthika level or at the absolute level, we have to say that this is something which is imperishable Brahma, imperishable, unchanging Brahman, which is nothing but consciousness, and this is just appearing as this universe. So that is what, in order to explain it, the next mantra starts. Let us read the mantra. Yathornana visrujate grunhate cha Yatha pruthivyam oshadhayas sambhavanti Yatha satah purushat keshalomani Tatha ksharat sambhavati havishvam. So here we have to see one more point. I said about the Brahman appearing as this thing, isn't it? So for making anything, you need what is called a material. You need what is called a material. Suppose a potter wants to make a pot. So potter is the intelligent cause. Technically, he is called the intelligent cause. In Sanskrit, we call it nimitta karana. Then he needs some clay. This clay is the material which is needed. So that clay is called the material cause. So there are two things. In Sanskrit, we call it upadana karana. Upadana means, adana means to take. Upadana means to take it for the purpose of making something as the material. Upadana is a material. So there is a nimitta karana, the intelligent cause, and then there is a upadana, which is the material cause. So these two things are not separate in our theory. In our theory, in Advaita, these two things are not separate. The same Brahman is appearing. Ramanuja also says the same. Ramanuja says that Ramanuja means, even prior to Ramanuja, such things, the same Vedas or Upanishads have been interpreted in 2-3 different ways, isn't it? So they say that the same Brahman changes. Brahma Parinamavada, that is what is called Brahma Parinamavada. Whereas we say that Brahma is unchanging and it is appearing as this universe. So though it is the same Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana, he is that Brahman is both the Nimitta Karana and also Upadana Karana. Brahman is Nimitta Karana and also Upadana Karana. Both for Ramanuja also, Vaishishtadvaita also they say. But then they say that it is transformation. Whereas we say Brahma is untouched. It is something which is it does not undergo any change. Whereas it is something which is appearing as this thing. So that is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. Abhinna means it is not different. These two things are not different. Nimitta Karana and Upadana Karanam are one and the same. So that is what is being explained in this particular mantra. Yatha, let us see the mantra. Yatha Urnanabhihi. Yatha Urnanabhihi. Urnanabhi means that spider. Urnanabhi is what's called a spider. Yatha, just as a spider, Srujate Grunhatecha. We have all seen spiders. Maybe the modern people might not be able to see spiders unless you go to a very, very old house and look at some corner of the house. You will not see spiders. So there you will see the spider. The spider, there will be a huge web, and in that web it will be there somewhere in the center like a lord. And whenever it wants to withdraw it, it goes to some other place, it withdraws it and goes to some other place, and then again makes another web there. So it releases that web from its own self, its own body, withdraws the same thing from into it, and then goes somewhere else, isn't it? So yatha urnanabhihi srujate. Srujate means releases. And then grunhate. Grunhate means withdraws. So it releases and withdraws. Release and withdraw. So here we have to see this srujate, grunhate also. Why are these two things mentioned? Because the Upanishad is not merely saying srujate. It doesn't say that just God has created it, the creation goes on. Not like that. So there is a creation and resolution. Because in our system, there is what is called the cycles of creation. You see, in this is a particular cycle of creation. After millions and millions of years, there will be another cycle of creation. After millions and millions of years, there will be another cycle of creation. So that is our Siddhanta. We will not go into that. In brief, it is that this Supreme Brahman or Supreme Brahman called consciousness, it does not undergo any change. But there is something called this, the manifesting power in that Brahman. That manifesting power is called Maya or Prakriti. And that Prakriti, it changes into all these things. That change, Prakriti, it has got these three gunas called Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And from those gunas, all these Panchabhutas, that is Akasha, Vayu, etc., all these things are formed. And this Akasha, Vayu, etc., all these things we have seen in Taittiriya Upanishad. Akasha, Vayu, Vayu, Agni, etc., we have seen in Taittiriya Upanishad. So in that order they come. Initially, in that consciousness, that Maya Vachinnam Chaitanyam we call it. So from that Maya, there is Maya Vachinnam Chaitanyam, the first appearance of that notion of I. That is what is called Hiranyagarbha. We are going to see in the next mantra. Not the 8th mantra, but the 9th mantra. So that from that Hiranyagarbha, this Tanmatras are there. Tanmatra means this Prithvi, Vayu, etc., the 5 elements. The 5 elements in their elemental form. So when they interact with one another, we see this gross forms. We see the gross earth, we see the gross water, we see the gross air, etc. So prior to that, they were not tangible. After interaction with one another, that is what is called Panchikaranam. We will again not go into that. So then all this, say this whole world appears. So various worlds or various heavenly bodies, all these things, they appear because of the interaction of these 5 elements. So that is what we see. And for this, say a general listener may go to my talks on Introduction to Hinduism in the same website, course on Hinduism. In that course on Hinduism, how has universe come about? So I have explained in some details. So somebody can see that. Okay, here, yatha urnanabhi srujate grunhate cha. This is cycles of creation, as we say. Then yatha pruthivyam oshadhayas sambhavanti. And just as in the earth, oshadhaya, the whole plant kingdom. Oshadhi means not medicine. Oshadhi means the whole plant kingdom. Oshadhayas sambhavanti. They originate. The whole plant kingdom originates from the Prithvi. And then yatha satah purushat keshalomani. Satah purushat. Satah means jivataha, live person. Satah purushat means from a live person. Keshalomani. Kesha means hair which is on the head or their kesha. Hair on the body, they are called Roma. Roma, it is otherwise called Loma. Roma and Loma are one and the same. Roma, you know.
Yeah.
Roma, Rom me basane wale ram, the bhajan also. So Roma means hair. Hair on the head is called Kesha. Hair on other parts of the body is called Roma. So anyway, Kesha Loma, Roma or Loma. Kesha Lomani. So just as from a living being, this hair, you can also include nails, etc. Kesha Lomani. Tatha aksharat sambhavatiha vishwam. Tatha means likewise. Aksharat means from that unchanging thing. So this is again a very important statement, you see. Aksharat, from that unchanging thing, this is how it comes. So on one hand he is saying unchanging, on the other hand he is giving 3 examples. One is Urnanabi, spider. Spider definitely is undergoing change, isn't it? Spider is definitely releasing and taking back. And then again from Prithvi, say all these plants are appearing. Then again from Satah Purushat, Keshalomani, there is some change which is going on. But at the end he says, Aksharat Sambhavati Iha Vishwam. This Akshara, from that unchanging entity, this whole universe appears. So anyway, why these 3 examples are given? Anandagiri explains these 3 examples. You see, the first example is given, Urnanabhi. Urnanabhi example is given just to answer one question. So this Anandagiri points out, Brahma na karanam sahaya shunyatvad. Brahma is, what you call it as Brahma, is something which is alone. There is nothing else. Brahma is something, the only one entity which is existing. And sahaya shunyatvad, because there are no accessories. There is no other helping hand. So in such a case, how can Brahma release? How can Brahma create? So that is the thing. There is no upadana karanam, there is nothing else, only this thing, whatever thing you call it as Brahman, except Brahman there is nothing else. How can Brahma create? So to answer that, this Urnanabhi example is given. Urnanabhi is that spider example. Then second question is, Brahma is not the upadana karanam because Brahma is something different. Brahma jagataha na upadanam tad abhinnatvat. So Brahma is not the upadana karanam, he says, abhinnatvat, because this is something which is, they are of 2 different nature. They are of 2, Brahma is of different nature and Jagat is of different nature. So then to answer that, he says, Bhinnatvat swarupasyeva ityanumanasya aikantikatvamaha yatha pruthivyam. So in this Prithvi, you see, Pruthivyam Oshadhayaha. They are not different from Prithvi. Prithvi is the same, the Oshadhis, they are not different from Prithvi. So he gives a second example. The third example is Sataha Purushat Keshalomani. Satah Purushat means a living example, a living person. From a living person, the hair or nails. So that example is given to answer a doubt that how can from an intelligent thing or a sentient thing, how can an insentient thing come? From a sentient thing, an insentient thing has come. So how can it be? So the example is Sataha Purushat Keshalomani. So and then here we have to see that the example should not be stretched too far. Example is only for the sake of example, in order to understand the fact that Supreme Brahman, without undergoing any change, he is able to manifest in this form as the whole universe. So see the Bhashyam. Bhutayonyaksharamityuktam tat katham bhutayoni ityuchyate
तत् कथं भूतयोनित्युच्यते
Prasiddha Drishtantaihi.
प्रसिद्धदृष्टान्तैः.
Okay, Bhutayoni Aksharam Ityuktam. It has been told that this Bhuta, this Aksharam is this imperishable Brahma, he is Bhutayoni, he is the Karanam for the whole universe, all the beings rather. Tat Katham Bhutayoni, in what manner is it Bhutayoni? Iti Uchyate, that is being told, Prasiddha Drishtantaihi, by well-known examples. Then Yatha Loke Prasiddham,
यथा लोके प्रसिद्धं
Urnanabhihi Luta Kitaha,
ऊर्णनाभिः लूताकीटः
Kinchit Karanantaram Anapekshya,
किञ्चित् कारणान्तरम्
Anapekshya, Swayameva Srujate,
स्वयमेव सृजते
Swashariravyatirittaneva Tantun,
स्वशरीराव्यतिरिक्तानेव
Shariravyatirittaneva Tantun,
स्वशरीराव्यतिरिक्तानेव तन्तून्
Bahih Prasarayati,
बहिः प्रसारयति
Punastaneva Grunhate, Taneva Grunhate cha, Grunhati Swatmabhavameva Apadayati.
गृह्णाति स्वात्मभावमेव आपादयति.
So this is the first example. Yatha Loke Prasiddham. It is well known in the world. It is a matter of common knowledge. That's what it means. Urnanabhihi is Luta Kitaha. That is a spider. Kinchit Karanantaram Anapekshya. Without depending on any other cause. Karanantaram means any other cause. Karanantaram Anapekshya means without depending on any other cause. Swayameva Srujate. So here the first question is about how can Brahma create the universe without any sort of any sahaya, any other accessory, any other upadana karanam. So it is saying that it is the abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. So that is it. It is the same upadana karanam, it is also the nimitta karanam. So there is no separate material cause. So that is the point here. Swayameva srujate, it itself releases. And then swasharira avyatirikthaneva tantun. So these tantu means all these threads. Tantu means thread. And these threads, they are swasharira avyatirikta. That is, they are not different from its own body. They are not different from or distinguished from its own body. So such tantun bahihi prasarayati, releases outside. Bahihi means outside. Prasarayati, releases, spreads out rather. Prasara is spreading out. Spreads out. Punaha taneva grunhate. It again takes back. The same, all these threads, they are taken back. So, grunhati swatma bhavameva apadayati. Swa atma bhavam apadayati means again it makes all of them or brings all of them into its own self. So, swa atma bhavam means making them again into its own self, one's own self. So it is making this spider is making all these things, all these threads rather, bringing them back and making its own self. Then the second example is about Pruthivyam Oshadaya. Second example is how can this Brahman create worlds which are different from him? So the answer is the worlds are not different from Ishvara. Just as say the trees, plants, etc., they are not different from earth. This is something which is not different from Ishvara. So yathacha pruthivyam oshadhayah vrīhyādi sthāvarantāha ityarthaha swātmā vyatiriktā eva prabhavanti. So this is the second example. Yatha pruthivyam, on earth we see that oshadhayah. Oshadhi means starting from vrihi. Vrihi means small, vrihi dhanyam, all this, all these cereals and then all the small food items, food grains we get. So starting from small plants, sthavarantaha, starting from small plants to huge trees. All these sthavarantaha, oshadhi means any type of plant, starting from a blade of grass to huge trees, etc. Then swatma avyatirikta eva. They are not, different. Swatma avyatirikta. Vyatirikta means separate. Avyatirikta means not separate. Swatma avyatirikta means not separate from its own self. All the plants which are appearing on the ground, they are not different from the earth itself. Swatma avyatirikta eva prabhavanti. They all originate in that manner only. Then the third example is about Kesha Loma, isn't it? Kesha Loma, the question is, one is sentient, this other, the Jagat is insentient. Jagat means all this, say rocks, hills, rivers, etc. They are all insentient, isn't it? How can all these things be formed? So here, the third example is about that. Yatha cha sataha vidyamanat jivatah purushat.
यथा च सतः विद्यमानात् जीवितः पुरुषः
केशलोमानि केशाश्च लोमानि च संभवन्ति विलक्षणानि. Okay, the third example is this. Yatha cha sataha. Sat means something which is existing, but here the meaning is living. Sataha purushat. Sataha vidyamanat means one who is seen. Jivataha means somebody who is living. Jivataha is Shashti Ekavachanam, isn't it? Jivataha purushat. From that purusha, Jivataha purushat, from somebody who is alive, from such person, Kesha lomani, Keshascha lomanicha. Kesha I explained to you. Then Sambhavanti, they originate. Vilakshanani here. Vilakshanani means dissimilar. In the earlier example, all those things are similar. Pruthivi and Voshadhayaha, they are similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are not dissimilar. In the third example, they are dissimilar. They are distinct from the body, isn't it? Kesha, Loma, they are distinct from the body. Every morning we shave and then we don't feel the pain. So, Kesha, Lomani, Vilakshanani Sambhavanti. So the first example about Varnanavi, it said it is both the Nimitta Karana and Upadana Karana. The second Karanam said all the things which are appearing, they are of the same nature, it also said. But there are many things which are dissimilar also. Those dissimilar things, how are they formed? The dissimilar things are in this manner, like from a human being or any living being. The hair, etc., they grow. So that is what it is. Then, yathaite drushtantaha, tatha vilakshanam salakshanam cha, nimittantaranapetshat, yathokta lakshanad aksharat sambhavati samutpadyata,
अक्षरात् संभवति
समुत्पद्यते इह संसार मंडले विश्वम समस्तम जगत. Okay, yatha yete drushtantaha, as in the case of these examples, tatha, in the same manner, vilakshanam salakshanam cha, those which are dissimilar and those which are similar. Dissimilar are Keshalomani, equivalent of Keshalomani is the rocks and all these rivers, hills, etc. Then Salakshanam is similar things. Similar things are Virihi Eva, etc. Virihi Eva, this Oshadhi, in the case of earth. So those which are dissimilar and those which are similar in nature, all these things they are appearing in the same Brahman, which is again the Nimitta Karanam and also Upadana Karanam for this whole universe. Nimittantara anapetshat means this Brahma is something which is nimittantara anapetsham. It does not depend on any other nimitta. It does not depend on any other person, any other accessory, any other material. Anapetsham yathokta lakshanadi aksharat sambhavati. All these things, they originate from akshara, from that imperishable Brahman. Samutpadyate iti iha samsara mandale vishwam samastam jagat. The whole universe is originating in that manner. Aneka drushtantopadanam tu sukhartha prabodhanartham. So, taking so many examples and explaining it is sukha artha prabodhanartham, is in order to explain the meaning in a easy way, in order to explain the meaning in a easy manner. So here, so the Brahman is, any points which you have missed? Okay, this is all right. because we need not go into details about this Maya and other things which we will come across later. So broadly, what we have noticed is Brahman is something which is unchanging. From that unchanging thing, all this whole thing has come. So how has it come? So there are three questions. Brahma, you say that Brahman is alone, which is say all-encompassing, and then which is infinite in nature. How can this universe come? How can it be separate? So then the answer is Brahma itself is the material cause. Brahma itself is the intelligent cause. Then for the question, how can there be say things which are so many things which are appearing from Brahman, just as in the case of earth you find all these plant kingdom, etc. Then the third question is, from a sentient thing, how can all insentient things come? Like in the case of Purushat Keshalomani. So that is how it's said. So finally what we see is the theory, the doctrine of Advaita is that it is this one consciousness which is appearing as all these things through this medium called Brahma. And how that takes place, the next mantra tells what exactly is the way in which all these things have emerged. Like we see Akasha Dvayuhu Vayoragnihi in Taittiriya Upanishad, this mantra which we are going to see now is something which is similar to that or analogous to that. Let us see the mantra, the eighth mantra. Tapasa chiyate brahma tatonnam abhijayate annat prano manas satyam loka karmasu chamrutam. So here the first broad meaning of this mantra, tapasa chiyate brahma. So this Brahma, here it does not refer to the supreme reality. Here the Brahma is this sorry? Yeah, that Maya Vachinnam Chaitanyam. So Chaitanyam is at one level. So Chaitanyam is associated with Maya also. And then this Maya means that that expressive power or manifesting power, let us say. That manifesting power is called Maya. So that when the Chaitanya is associated with that power, it appears as though it is something which is expanding. Tapasa chiyate brahma. This tapasa, this word tapasa means jnanena. By virtue of its say jnanam. Jnanam means knowledge. Knowledge about how to go about creation, etc. So because of that knowledge, chiyate brahma. This say Maya Vachinna Chaitanyam, which is otherwise called Ishvara, you call it Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara, that expands. Chiyate means upachiyate. Upachaya, apachaya, you know the two words. Chayanam. Chayanam means to collect. Upachaya means to collect. Apachaya means to spend, isn't it? Upachaya, apachaya lashana. Spending or depleting. So here chiyate means it gained. It gains. Gains means it expands. Tapasa chiyate brahma. By this jnana, this Brahma or Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara, that expands. Then tataha annam abhijayate. Annam abhijayate. Annam is that avyakruta. Anna is that avyakruta. Then abhijayate. No, this Brahma is not Hiranyagarbha. This Brahma is above that. The first thing is Ishvara. Tapasa chiyate Brahma. From that Brahma, annam abhijayate. Annam is avyakruta. The meaning for anna is avyakruta. Annam is whatever we eat is annam, isn't it? So this avyakrutam or pradhanam, that is something which is enjoyed by all the beings in the universe, isn't it? So in that sense it is called annam. From that annam only all the things emerge. So which means all the beings are dependent on that. All the beings, we live on this whole universe. If the universe is not there, the beings are not there. So all the beings in the universe, they depend on this pradhanam only. So that is why it is called annam. Tato annam abhijayate. So this annam or avyakruta or pradhana evolves from that. And from that pradhana, this prana is the Hiranyagarbha. Prana is the Hiranyagarbha. So Hiranyagarbha originates from that. And then from that manaha. Mana means cosmic mind. Cosmic mind again appearing as so many individual minds. Then satyam. From that only, satyam. The word satyam we have seen Satcha Tyacha Abhavat. We have seen in Taittiriya Upanishad. Sat and Tyat. That is, these elements, the Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. 3 are tangible, 2 are intangible. Akasha and Vayu are intangible. Then the other intangible means they cannot be seen, they don't have a form. Then Murta, Amurta. Amurta means those who do not have a form, which do not have a form. That is Akasha and Vayu. Then Agni, then water, and then the earth. These 3 things, they are seen. They have got a shape, they have got a rupa. So these 3 things and also those 2 say unseen things, these things are called Satyam. Satyam is those which have come into existence. Satyam is here in a different sense, not to equate it to Brahman. So this Satyam, Manaha Satyam. So these 5 elements, they become all these whole worlds which we see. The same 5 elements, they become the whole universe. Lokaha. Lokaha, in the traditional sense, if we want to say, okay, the Sapta Lokaha, Bhuradi, Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, etc., all the Lokaha. In a very, very modern sense, if you want to interpret, you say all these 5 elements only, they have become the whole universe, all these planets, galaxies, etc., it has become. Lokaha, Karma Sucha, Amrutam. Lokaha, Karma. Then again, Karma is also there. All this Loka, it has got all the beings, whether it may be human beings or some other beings. And then these beings, they do have some karma. Karma means some action, some activity. And whatever action you do, there is a phalam also, isn't it? There is an action, there is a karma, there is a karma phalam. And for example, say, enjoying or reaping the fruit of that karma phalam, then again this being takes births again and again. So that goes on like a cycle. That goes on almost endlessly, isn't it? So that is why it is called Amrutam. Amrutam means karma phalam. Karma sucha Amrutam. Amrutam here means karma phalam. Karma phalam is not absolute Amrutam, it is a relative Amrutam. Karma phalam is, it goes on and on and on, unless one tries to, say, realize his real nature, unless one tries to know Brahman. Once he tries to realize his real nature and realizes that his self is not different from that of Brahman, nor he is the same as Brahman, then his karmas come to an end. Otherwise, till that time, this karma and then karma phala goes on and on. So that is why it is called Amrutam. It is not absolute. Say Amrutam means immortality or something which is eternal in nature. It is not like that. It is relatively eternal. Amrutam is eternal here. So that way. So tapasa chiyate Brahma. Initially this Ishvara is something he expands by virtue of knowledge. From that Avyakruta appears. Avyakruta means this Pradhanam or whatever as we call it. Pradhanam is Prakriti. And in that the first evolute is this Hiranyagarbha, the Prathamo Jivaha, isn't it? That Prathama Jiva evolves. And then that Prathama Jiva is also called Prana. Prana means the vital force, the life force. And from that, the Mana, simultaneously Mana also is there. And then again these 5 elements, and the 5 elements become all the worlds which we see. So in that manner, a small process of evolution. In fact, we say, we in Vedanta, we are not creationists. Creationists in the sense that God suddenly came and then He created the whole universe. We don't say that. We say that this universe is always existing. So here also, it is not as though God has suddenly come and then He has suddenly created all this. Because the cycles of creation go on and on and on. It is eternal. Because when you say Brahman is there, some Brahman or consciousness is there, consciousness is eternal. And in that consciousness, this manifesting power called Maya is also there, Anadi. Maya also is called Anadi. Anadimat Param Brahma. There we have seen. In Bhagavad Gita Bhashyam, we have seen Anadimat Param Brahma. So this Maya also is eternal, isn't it? Eternal means Anadi. It is originless. It is there. But then Santam. Santam means it comes to an end. Brahma is Anadi Anantam. The difference between Brahma and Maya is, Brahma is something which is Anadi and Anantam, no end. Whereas Maya is Anadi, there is no doubt it is Anadi, because it is always coeval, coexistent with Brahman. But it comes to an end after you realize your nature. Once you realize your nature, then this Maya goes away and then you realize that you are that Brahman. So Maya is something which is anadi, but santam. Santam means it has an end. So that is the difference which we have to note. So let us see the Bhashyam. Yad Brahmanaha utpadyamanam vishwam
यद् ब्रह्मणः उत्पद्यमानं विश्वं
tad anena kramenotpadyate
तद् अनेन क्रमेण उत्पद्यते
na yugapat
न युगपत्
badaramushti prakshepavad iti
बदरमुष्टि
prakshepavad iti krama niyama vivaksharthoyam mantra arabhyate.
क्रम नियम विवक्षार्थोऽयं मंत्र आरभ्यते.
So this mantra is commenced to say that this Vishwam which has originated from Brahman, it is not as though it is just simultaneously appearing. Yugapat means simultaneously. It is not simultaneously appearing as though you have got some small fruits in your hand, some small what type of some berries, let us say. Badara is actually berry. Some small berries in your hand, a fistful of berries, and then you just suddenly spread them out, and then all these things which appear. So all the whole universe, the galaxies, etc., they did not appear like that. It is not as though God had some berries in his hand and then he threw out like that. It is not like that. So kramena utpadyate. It is something which is coming in a particular order. They are evolving. So that is why I was saying that in Vedanta, we are basically evolutionists, we can say. We are basically evolutionists who say that from that creative power called Maya, it appeared as all these things in this particular process. So in the whole way, in fact, Taittiriya Upanishad we have seen, it describes in a much more detailed manner. And here, of course, it is in a slightly shorter form. So this tad anena kramena utpadyate. In this particular order, anena kramena means in this particular order, utpadyate, na yugapat, not simultaneously, badara mushti prakshepavat. Badara means berry. Mushti is a fist. Prakshepa means just throwing. Prakshepa is throwing. Just as you throw a fistful of berries and then you spread out. It is not like that. Iti krama niyama vivaksharthaha. In order to convey that krama niyama, there is a krama, there is a particular order. That particular order is something which is niyama, that is the rule. So in order to tell that, this mantra is commenced. So this mantra, let us read. Tapasa jnanena utpatti vidhignetaya
तपसा ज्ञानेन उत्पत्ति विज्ञाता
bhutayon brahma
भूतयोऽक्षरं ब्रह्म
chiyate upachiyate
चीयते उपचीयते
utpipadayishad idam jagat utpipadayishad idam jagat.
उत्पिपादयिष इदं जगत्.
What does your book say? It is not utpadayishat, utpipadayishat, because it is a sananta. It is a sananta pratyaya, like jigyasa. Utpipadayishad idam jagat ankuramiva bijam uchchunatam gacchati putrameva pita harshena. Okay. Tapasa chiyate brahma. So for what is the meaning of tapas? Tapas, it does not mean say sitting in some corner and then doing some meditation and things like that. Tapa is jnana. So in the very next mantra is also we are saying yasya jnanamayam tapaha. This tapa has the meaning of jnana. Here tapasa, by virtue of that knowledge about how this creation has to take place, by virtue of the knowledge about how the creation has to take place, jnanena utpatti vidhignetaya. Utpatti vidhi means the way in which it has to be, say, created. Utpatti vidhignetaya. Vidhignetaya means the knowledge of how it has to be done. Vidhigneta. Vidhigneta is vidhignya. Gnya means to know, isn't it? Vidhignya means who knows the procedure. That is it. By that, bhutayoni aksharam brahma. This aksharam brahma, which is the bhutayoni, chiyate, upachiyate. This word chiyate is a rather complicated word. That is, expands. This bhutayoni aksharam brahma expands. So expands in what manner? So that is, upachiyate, utpipadayishad idam jagat. Desirous of creating this whole universe. Idam Jagat means this universe. Ut Pipada Ishat. That means desirous of Utpadana, you know. Utpadana, desirous of creating this whole universe. What does it do? It expands, it seems. Expand, for example, he is giving an example. Ankurameva Bijam. We read it. Ankurameva Bijam means just as you put some, say, seed in the ground and then put some soak it with water, etc. It swells. It swells, or it because the bijam, initially a small seed, it slowly expands and then it swells, isn't it? Like that, this Brahma also, Utshunatam Gachati. Utshuna means to swell. Utshunatam Gachati means it expands. So this word is rather difficult, we have to see. This Chiyate, Tapasa Chiyate Brahma. See, this Brahma is something which is of the nature of consciousness. And then this thing, with the desire of creating this whole universe, it is associated with Maya. This Brahma gets associated with Maya. When there is no time limit, because it is not as though we are fixing a particular time limit for that. It is Anadi, as I said. It is the cycles of creation go on and on. There, in fact, in the 8th Adhyaya of Shankara Bhashya, we have seen, because this Maya is something which is Anadi. Otherwise, if you say that Adi, then the question will come, what was God doing prior to creation? And God will not be called a Lord, because he uses a beautiful word there. If we say that this whole world had a particular time of origin, then the question will arise that Lord, he had nothing to lord over earlier. He had nothing to lord over earlier. There is a beautiful expression by him. Anishwaratva prasangaha. Ishitavya bhavat. Anishwaratva prasangaha, he says. That is, prior to this creation, there was nothing else to rule. So that means you can't call him the ruler. You can't call him the Lord. So that is why this is something, Maya is something which is anadi. It is something which is originless. So that's what we have to see here. Aksharam Brahma Chiyate Upajayate Jagadam Kurame Bijam Uchchunatam Gachati. It expands. Putrameva Pita Harshena. Another example given is, just as you see your son who is coming up, and you feel very, very happy. Suppose your son is doing well in something. You feel very happy and then you feel elated. So something like that, Tapasa Chiyate Brahma. Something similar. This Brahma is, even this expanding is not a correct word. But there is no other word for this. Tapasa, you can't say Brahma is swelling like a seed. You can't say, the best word I can think of is, he expands. Then, Evam Sarvajñataya Srushti Sthiti Samhara Shakti Vijñanavattaya Upachitat Tato Brahmanaha Annam Adyate Bhujyate Ityannam Avyakrutam Sadharanam Samsarinam. Okay, Karanam Samsarinam. Vyachikirshitavastha rupena abhijayate utpadyate. So first he is talking about this Maya or Pradhanam. So this is a concept which we are seeing. What is this? Evam Sarvajñataya. Sarvajña. That is the omniscience. Because by virtue of this omniscience, what is this omniscience about? Srushti, Sthiti, Samhara, Shakti, Vijñanavataya. Srushti is creation, Sthiti sustenance, Samharam is withdrawing it. Shakti, Vijñanavataya, that ability and that knowledge, Vijñanavataya. Upachitat means from that Brahman which has grown like that, from that Brahman which has grown like that, Upachitat. Tato Brahmanaha, from that Brahman, Annam Abhijayate, that is the line which is being commented upon. Annam, what is the meaning of Annam? Adyate, Bhujyate, Ad dhatu related to English eat and Ad, one and the same. The Urdu word Eid also. Eating. Adyate Bhutani, that is Adyate Bhujyate, that which is enjoyed, that which is experienced. The first thing here we have to see is, this becomes the source of living for all the beings. This is what is the source. So that is why it is called annam. Annam not necessarily means food alone. We breathe, we take water, we survive. Every little cell of our body is dependent on the universe only, on this pradhanam. So that is why it is called annam. Bhujyate iti annam. Avyakrutam. Avyakrutam is what is called maya or pradhanam. Sadharanam, your book says karanam sarva samsarinam. For all the beings, it is the sadharanam karanam. That is the common cause. There is nobody who is above this. So we are actually, it is as though we are basically determined or hardwired by this maya. Then vyachikirshita avastharupena abhijayate. So that means this whole universe, not whole universe, this avyakrutam, this maya, abhijayate. Abhijayate means it arises, it originates. How? In the manner in which it has been desired. Vyachikirshita. Vyakaranam, Vyakaranam means vyakr, that is to expand, to elaborate. Vyachikirsha means desire to elaborate, desire to expand. Vyachikirsha. Vyachikirshita avastharupena means in the manner in which that was designed to be, expressed. In the manner in which it was designed to be created. In the same manner, it arose. So we will continue in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti